Now, there are two that I really am kind of fond of. So this one here, I like because of the sort of color photograph here at the beginning. Also because it captures, again, a specific time period in Jonesboro's preservation history. So here when you open it up, you have highlights of the newly created Visitor Center and Washington County History Museum. So that highlights the time period for us. This tells us that this is in the 1980s, but also highlights how Jonesboro had taken its preservation efforts and had started to evolve that into conveying history preservation to the public. And one of the key components of that was creating a new visitor center and creating a history museum to highlight different stories or artifacts from the town and the region and conveying that to the public. So preservation isn't just preserving a building, or in Jonesboro's case, preserving several buildings. It's what stories go along with that. What's the meaning? What's the significance of what's preserved? And oftentimes the story about preservation tells as much about the present as it does about the past. Things that are preserved at a certain time reflect what people in the present that's doing the preserving find to be significant. And you can see that in the evolution of Jonesboro's preservation and preservation efforts over time. Now, the other brochure that I really enjoy, there is this version, which is from right around 1969, 1970. So a very early in Jonesboro's preservation efforts. This was put out by the Kiwanis Club, so not before the Civic Trust was founded, it seems. But one of the things that is really interesting about this, there's an older version of this from the 40s or 50s that is in our archival collection. But this one is really fascinating because it does some of the same things. So you've got a map of the region, and you've got Jonesboro's place located on the map. You've got the highlights of Jonesboro's history in certain buildings and photographs. But you also have highlights of modern Jonesboro. And you see things like emphasizing Jonesboro's access to electric power and the modern efforts of the town in terms of what industry is in the area and what new modern industries. For example, Jonesboro's newest industry, Tennessee Nuclear Specialties Corporation, built by the citizens of Jonesboro. So when you look at most of the other historic brochures and town brochures, the primary emphasis is Jonesboro's history and its historic significance. This is sort of a bridge brochure. When you look at Jonesboro in the 40s and 50s, a lot of the information about the town that you can find in terms of the way that the town is sort of presenting itself is highlighting modern progress, highlighting modern capabilities. And when you see Jonesboro really pick up with its push on historic preservation in the late 1960s, you sort of see the town go away from the modern elements of Jonesboro. But this brochure still highlights some of the modern things that you can find in Jonesboro as a selling point for the town or as a point of attraction to people who are here in the area. So when you're looking at preservation, when you're looking at a place like Jonesboro, who has a rich history and a long history, what's interesting is the process in which that history is preserved and the way that that history is presented to people. And when you look at town tour brochures, you can look at the way that the maps in the brochures evolve over the time, the way that the names of the buildings change over time, the way that the stories that are associated with those buildings change over time, and the way that the past itself is emphasized over present luxuries or present progress. You can look at that and understand just as much about the whole process of preservation as you can just by looking at a historic building or going to a museum. So that's it for this video. Be sure to check out any of our other video uploads about preservation in Jonesboro, the exhibit, and some of the things that are going along or that you can find within the exhibit that highlight not just Jonesboro's preservation, but the process of Jonesboro's preservation. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks.